Oh, let me tell you, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry were supposed to be different. That was the fairy tale we were sold, right? The golden couple who broke away from the cold, stiff corridors of the royal palace to live a free, authentic, purpose-driven life. No gilded thrones, no suffocating titles. Just two people determined to do good in the world. They traded crowns for causes, swapped royal duties for non-profit ventures. They built a sparkling brand around kindness, impact, and raw authenticity. The speeches, the photo ops, the smiles, everything screamed we're here for the people. But now, oh honey, it's looking like the whole thing might have been nothing more than a beautifully staged illusion. And at the center of this unraveling fairy tale, their precious charity foundation. On the surface, it was everything you'd expect from the modern philanthropic power couple. Gorgeous websites dripping with emotional imagery, heartfelt speeches designed to make you cry and click donate in the same breath, glitzy partnerships with global brands. And the money? Oh, it poured in by the millions. From small-town teachers sending $20 to billion-dollar corporations signing six-figure checks, all because they believed in Meghan and Harry's promise to make the world a better place. But behind the curtain, that's where the fairy dust turns into smoke. A growing number of insiders are whispering, no, shouting, that the foundation wasn't about changing lives. It was about funding their lifestyle. And I'm not talking about a cheeky business class upgrade here and there. Oh no, according to former staff and nonprofit watchdogs, there was a clear, repeated pattern. Donations funneled straight into Meghan and Harry's personal accounts, wrapped up in vague operational costs that no one could ever quite explain. And this wasn't a one-off slip-up. Insiders say it went on for months, maybe even years. People close to the charity swear the warning signs were flashing in neon. Youth programs announced with all the drama of a Hollywood premiere, never launched. Women's empowerment projects, talked about endlessly, but the funding never came. Environmental initiatives? Stuck in planning mode while the charity's bank accounts quietly bled dry. And the staff who dared to ask questions? Silenced, pushed out, frozen out of meetings. One ex-employee said it started to feel like they were working for a luxury brand pretending to be a movement. And that's the real sting, isn't it? Meghan and Harry's whole post-royal identity is built on being relatable, grounded, for the people. They speak about trauma healing, lifting up unheard voices, fighting for the voiceless. That's the image that made everyday people dig deep into their own pockets. That's why global corporations signed those giant checks. And now? It's starting to look like those donations might have been paying for another sprawling estate or a private jet getaway. Oh, but we're not done. This isn't just about broken trust. It could be criminal. Word is, UK financial investigators are already digging deep into suspicious transactions tied to the foundation. Sources close to the probe say they've traced hefty sums from donation accounts straight into offshore holdings and personal accounts linked to the couple. And let's be clear, this isn't just tea whispered in backrooms. These are official investigations run by people who know exactly how to follow a money trail. And Meghan and Harry, silent. No detailed explanations, no sit-down interviews to walk through the numbers. Just carefully worded legal denials and the usual glossy Instagram updates. That silence? It's deafening. And when your entire platform is built on integrity, silence starts to feel an awful lot like guilt. Behind the scenes, insiders say the atmosphere inside the charity shifted long before the public got wind of it. The mission blurred, priorities got fuzzy, meetings started revolving less around outreach and more around optics. One person compared it to working inside a PR machine dressed up as a charity. The first big red flag? The budget meetings. Staff were floored at how little money was actually going toward real charitable work compared to the mountain being spent on consultants, strategic development, and travel coordination. And it wasn't just the vague, corporate-sounding labels. It was that nobody could explain what those terms actually meant, or who was getting paid. You'd see $50,000 for community research, and when someone asked, what exactly did we research? The answers would dodge, weave, and eventually blame someone else. Then came the emails. Staff started noticing Meghan or Harry personally approving expenses that had nothing to do with charity work. Luxury hotel stays, private chefs. Every time they were flagged, they were magically approved. The excuse? It's part of branding. Yes, apparently keeping up a certain glamorous image was categorized as necessary for attracting donors, even if the money was meant to feed homeless families or send kids to school. When a few brave team members pushed back, thinking maybe this was all just a misunderstanding, they quickly found themselves iced out, dropped from email chains, excluded from key meetings. Some were quietly shown the door altogether. One insider even claimed there was a literal list, a blacklist, of employees considered problematic simply for asking where the money was going. Meanwhile, Meghan and Harry's public appearances only got bigger and glossier. Meghan would stand on global stages in gowns worth more than a staffer's annual salary, preaching about female empowerment. Harry would talk about climate change, right before hopping on a private jet. On camera, it was all heartwarming smiles and powerful sound bites. But behind the scenes, disillusionment was spreading like wildfire. Financial analysts who've peeked at fragments of the charity's internal books say there's a disturbing pattern. Most of the money never made it to actual causes. Instead of funding shelters or scholarships, donations were swallowed by administrative overhead, a term stretched so far past its legal definition it might as well snap. And when auditors dug deeper, that's when the real alarm bells went off. They found payments being routed through shell companies tied to the couple's personal associates. Corporate sponsors are now quietly panicking. We're talking global brands, the kind that handed over millions thinking they were helping communities. Some have frozen future payments, others are demanding full audits, and a few have scrubbed every mention of the partnership from their websites. And while the public still waits for answers, behind closed doors, it's obvious. The walls are closing in. The official investigation didn't kick off with flashing lights and breaking news headlines. Oh no, it slid quietly into motion, like a shadow moving through the room. But once it started, things escalated at lightning speed. UK authorities launched a full-scale financial review of the charity's accounts. They pulled everything: bank records, donor logs, offshore account details. And the early leaks? Phew! They painted a picture no PR spin could fix. Investigators reportedly uncovered large transfers funneled into shell corporations and tax havens, with some labeled as personal consulting fees. But when they checked, no one could even explain what consulting had supposedly taken place. There were no contracts, no deliverables, nothing but empty paper trails. And the kicker? Over $2 million in donor money vanished into these shadowy accounts in just 5 months. Some of those consultants didn't even exist online. No LinkedIn profiles, no corporate websites, no evidence they'd ever done charity-related work in their lives. Investigators now believe those names were nothing more than smokescreens to quietly reroute funds without setting off alarms. One financial analyst put it bluntly, this was built to look legitimate while doing the opposite. And here's where it gets even messier. In UK law, misuse of charitable funds is not a slap-on-the-wrist offense. It doesn't matter how famous you are or how many glossy Netflix specials you've got. If it's proven that Meghan and Harry knowingly redirected donations for personal gain, we're talking criminal charges, courtrooms, trials, and a reputation that won't recover in this lifetime. Their lawyers? They've been doing the usual damage control dance. Short, safe statements denying wrongdoing and blaming everything on disgruntled ex-employees and misinterpretations. And if you think that's bad, the timing could not be worse for the couple. They've been leaning hard on public appearances and big media deals to keep their brand alive. Their entire narrative is that they're the underdogs, the couple who walked away from royalty for a life of purpose. But if that mask slips, if the compassion turns out to be nothing but a marketing gimmick and the charity a financial shell, well, there's nothing left to sell. And this isn't just about Meghan and Harry anymore. The ripple effect is already hitting the celebrity charity world. Lawmakers are suddenly talking about tightening the rules for high-profile foundations. New proposals are being floated, mandatory third-party audits, stricter transparency laws, even background checks on celebrity board members before they can accept major donations. If those rules pass, it could rewrite the entire playbook for celebrity-led nonprofits. But for Meghan and Harry, that's a side note, because their problem right now, the court of public opinion has already started to turn. And once that happens, it's nearly impossible to reverse. Their famous dignified silence is no longer playing as grace under fire. It's reading as avoidance. And the carefully curated Instagram moments aren't distracting anyone anymore. People want receipts, they want names, numbers, explanations, and they want them now. What's most dangerous for them is this: the public isn't just suspicious, they're starting to feel duped. And when trust is broken like that, especially after you've positioned yourself as the champions of the vulnerable, the fall is brutal. Behind the scenes, the insiders say the atmosphere has shifted completely. The people who once stood shoulder to shoulder with Meghan and Harry, respected nonprofit leaders, seasoned volunteers, even former royal allies, are quietly walking away, not with big public statements, but with silence and distance. And that silence, it speaks volumes. The fairy tale they worked so hard to build hasn't just cracked, it's collapsed in on itself. And in its place, what's emerging is a far uglier story, one where glamour was used to mask greed, and where the cause may have been little more than a backdrop for self-promotion. For donors, it's a gut punch. For the nonprofit world, it's a cautionary tale. And for Meghan and Harry, it's the kind of scandal that doesn't just fade away when the next royal headline drops, because here's the truth. No matter how polished the speeches or how flawless the photographs, the numbers don't lie. And the numbers are finally seeing the light of day. And once the money trail is public, no crown, no camera, and no carefully staged photo op can save you.